everyone, it's Margaret Manning here, and welcome to 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is Dr. Leslie Kerniston. Leslie is a medical doctor and also specializes in geriatrics. She is the founder of a website. It's called betterhealthwhileaging.net, and in it she talks about the health issues that they're facing older adults. So welcome, Leslie.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm really happy to have you here because, as you know, we've got a large community of women over 60, and many of them are dealing with an area that you're especially, working with, which is older parents, perhaps needing some help as they get a little older. And so I would like to chat with you about this. Now, you have written a guide for people who are thinking about, their parents perhaps needing help. And as a geriatrician, you've got there's some guidance for them. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it's called the Quick Start Guide to Checking Older Parents. And I first started writing about geriatrics for the public about 10 years ago. And it was in particular for boomers who were worried about aging parents. And so over the years, people often approach me with this sort of a concern that's like, well, my mother's living at home alone, and should she be doing that? Or I've been worried about my parents, and how do I know when they need to move? And the answer to that is, sort of it depends. It depends on a lot of things. But when I thought about it, I thought, well, when I get asked about that for somebody who I'm going to see in person as a geriatrician, I actually have this whole list of red flags and health and safety issues that I check for that help me kind of assess how is this person globally doing. And I thought, well, I can't turn family caregivers into geriatricians, but I could create a list of things that they could go and check for that would kind of help them turn all those sort of vague worries into some really specific red flags that then they could bring up to the doctor or bring to somebody else's attention and kind of start to problem solve for. And so that was the genesis of the Quick Start Guide.
Yeah, the guide is really helpful. I mean, and it's very easy to read. It's not complicated. It's not any, medicalese. It's very, and one thing that's really important is women in our community and older women who've got elderly parents, they've been through a lot in their lives. I mean, they know how to cope with tons of stuff. But when it comes to a parent and trying to do the right thing for them, and it's a delicate emotional balance for them too, just tell us what some of those red flags are. I mean, just so that they could have that conversation with a doctor.
Yeah, and so I do encourage people to think about these so that then when they approach their parent, they might have some specifics in mind rather than this, I'm worried about you, you shouldn't be living the way you do. And so I basically organize them into 5 key areas that I check people in. And they are first life tasks. And so that's how well is the person able to do what we call activities of daily living and instrumental activities. Those are long, fancy words, but it's basically the life tasks that everybody learns to do in childhood. Both walking, getting around, getting dressed, getting to and from the bathroom, feeding yourself, but also the ones that we learn as teenagers, managing the finances, the transportation, the shopping, and cooking. And we really like to know about those in geriatrics because they highlight where a person might need some help. And also if somebody's struggling with those, then we think, well, what underlying health problem is that about? And is that something we need to diagnose and evaluate? So that's a really important one. And then I have safety red flags. They're just the major ones. It's very hard to guarantee that somebody is going to be safe. But, it's things like, is there concern for financial abuse? That's actually super common. Even in people who don't have dementia. Is there concern about elder abuse or someone otherwise taking advantage? Has the person been wandering? Have they been falling? Are you concerned about the driving? So, some of the just most important safety red flags.
That's a tough one. They're taking the keys away.
It totally is. And, people ask me, should I do it?
Yeah,
and
they're
I
real
say, well,
issues.
It depends on all this other stuff, you know? So you have to do a little bit of that background, big picture sense of what's going on. And then we have some physical health red flags, repeated trips to the emergency room, repeated falls. I mean, lots of older people have complicated health histories, but there are some flags that really show that something maybe more urgently needs to be done. And then there's a longer section on mood and brain health with just lots of, and all of these are kind of just, have you noticed? with a bunch of specific things that people can check off. Have they noticed or not noticed? So have you noticed that the person seems depressed or has lost interest in going out and doing things that they wanted to, or that they're lonely or isolated, or maybe they've become paranoid or having strange beliefs or forgetful or having trouble manipulating things. And these are all things where if somebody brought this into me, not that anyone ever has, but I hope they will at some point, that would really help me zero in on what might be happening much faster instead of having to start at that time the process of trying to gather information.
It's kind of doing your homework before they would go to a geriatrician to get some practical advice.
Well, exactly. Or before they would go actually to a generalist, because that's who most people will be able to see. And so if you can make it easier for that busy generalist to sort of see that, wow, this person has been forgetting things, has been having delusions, or has been having falls, you're just that much further ahead. And just to briefly, the fifth section that I have in there is about medication management and safety, just because that's such a common source of difficulty or struggle for older adults. And a lot of older adults are hospitalized for medication errors. And so if we can flag any of those, and that might be an area where we need to help out, that can be helpful.
Those are 5 really clear, well, not so much red flags, but kind of flags. Like you'd have to determine whether it's a red flag or a yellow flag, depending on what's going on. But, you know, as you were talking, I really was struck by the fact, Leslie, that we have women in our community who are in their 70s. And a lot of this could be almost a self-analysis, because I know as you get a little older, you start doing things that even yourself you start to not worry about, but you start to think, oh, maybe that's something I need to get some assistance with. So it's actually good for older, like over 85 sort of age, and then also for us, for older women in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't particularly intended for that, but I'm sure some people have looked at it with an eye towards themselves. And, you know, it's really a list of things that often become problems for older people.
Yes.
So you can see, I guess, you know, an older woman or another older person could see for themselves if they're having that problem. Or you could also, if you were in a planning frame, ask yourself sort of, what would I do if I were to start having this kind of difficulty? Or even, what would I want my friends or my adult children to do if they noticed that I was having this kind of difficulty? So, so yeah, you know, the common problems are the common problems. And I think in using this, people won't necessarily know exactly what to do, but to already narrow it down to certain flags. And then also in the guide, I've included some suggestions on what kind of professional might be able to help you with certain types of problems, kind of like where you could go next. And also links to a lot of resources that might tell you more about how to get a certain type of problem looked into. So it's a starting point, but people need a little place and direction to start. And hopefully it's been helpful.
Well, honestly, you're doing a real service. I mean, this guide is I've never seen anything quite like it, and I think it's really unique. Your website is called, I should get this right, it's Better Health While Aging. .net, and you'll find all kinds of resources up there, not just related to this, because in addition to doing giving advice and helping older people as a geriatrician, you also help older adults kind of prepare for their own aging problems that they might have with chronic illness and so on. So we're going to talk about that in another video, but but this is super helpful. And I think that the key thing now is to let people who are watching this know that a geriatrician isn't there for everybody. There's very few of you. You're kind of a rare breed. I think you had some number that was, the ratio was very, very high or very low.
Yes. Well, in the United States, there are about 7,500 geriatricians, and fewer every year because they retire. Not enough people are going into the field. But we have so many older adults, and I wrote it down because I think it's such an interesting statistic. But it's about one geriatrician for every 2,700 people aged 75 or older. And or about one for 800 people aged 85 or older. And so there are not enough of us to provide hands-on care to everybody. But so much of what we know can be useful to older adults, even adults who aren't even so old that they think of themselves as being old. So people in their 60s already could be paying attention to avoiding medications that we know are often harmful or could affect your balance or your thinking. So my goal in starting the site was that I feel like people with the internet have become so much more interested in learning about their health and well-being and in being proactive. And your site, you know, shares a lot of useful information. And in geriatrics, we have all this knowledge and understanding of how to help people live their best or how to tackle really common age-related health problems. And I wanted to share that with people so that they could learn a little bit more and maybe have a better sense of what questions to ask their regular doctors.
Yeah, no, it's a great site, and I would really recommend you go out and have a look at it. And I think from this conversation, I think what's been really become clear is that what this checklist and what your site does is it gets people who are planning to, have to look after their parents or just concerned about their parents' aging process, and it gives them some tips to go to a doctor who can then in turn find a geriatrician if you're the person that really is the only one that can help. But it's kind of a process of evolution of identifying what the challenges or the red flags might be, and then escalating to someone that can help you. So I'm glad you're there. I'm glad you're one of the 800 people that can help over 85. So thank you. But I really appreciate your time, Leslie. It's been great chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our 60andMe YouTube channel and also visit our website. We are a strong and dynamic community of women over 60. We're challenging aging stereotypes, and every day we share fascinating stories, interesting questions, and great conversation.